Hi, everyone. Welcome to our week 56 of our Native Wellness Power Hours. My name is Jillene Joseph, and I will be your host for the next little bit. I'm actually going to end. We're going to have a Native Wellness half hour today because I have to be somewhere else in 30 minutes. So thanks for your patience on that one. So today, actually, we are this is a part two from last week when we talked about baggage and letting go. And I didn't get to several parts last week where I wanted to talk about relationships and just how we can have some awareness around baggage and to have healthier relationships, and also how we can kind of start reprogramming our brains as well. So that's what we're going to be doing today. So I have all these places open. I'm trying to get situated here. Hold on a second. Just how we can okay. So I wanted to review really quickly from last week, just briefly. And so when we talk about baggage, right? What are we talking about when we talk about baggage? And so you can write in the chat, when you hear that term baggage, what does that make you think about, right? What is that? So write in the chat, what does that mean to you? And so last time, it wasn't last week, it was actually the week before, we had talked about that. And I had brought up, many decades ago, Kaiser Permanente did a study that they called Adverse Childhood Experiences. And really what that did was it took a look at trauma, how that impacts people's lives and how it shows up today. And so I just kind of briefly went over that last time. And I just want to briefly go over that again today. So I'm going to share my screen and review this really quickly. So here we go. So the ACEs is called for short. And so we know that from our perspective, right? Even why we're doing these power hours is we knew that an already traumatized people would be re-traumatized in this pandemic, right? And we wanted to do our part and our contribution, and we wanted to provide consistency and predictability. We wanted to provide frequency and duration. In other words, we wanted to be here every day at the same time, at the same place, just to be a source of an anchor for folks, right? To help them through this pandemic. So again, we knew that an already traumatized people would be re-traumatized. And we knew, and what we mean by an already traumatized people, it's because of our common history, right? With historical trauma. And when that goes unhealed and it trickles down from generation to generation to generation, and that's called intergenerational trauma, right? And then how that shows up today. And thank you all for writing them in the chat, right? The stuff that we hold on to, addiction, mommy, daddy, baby drama, all of that kind of stuff. That's exactly what I'm talking about. That's the trauma that keeps getting passed from generation to generation. And so if we look at the slide that is on right now, there's kind of three areas of adverse childhood experiences. So around abuse, whether it's physical, emotional, or sexual abuse; neglect, whether it's physical or emotional neglect; or what they labeled household dysfunction, anywhere from mental illness, family members being incarcerated, watching our mother being treated violently. And yes, I know that men are treated violently as well, but in this study, this is what they focused on. Substance abuse, so that's alcohol and drug, and divorce. So these were the big areas that they focused on. And what they found was that these have lasting residual effects, right, on people's on people's well-being, physical well-being, mental well-being, emotional well-being, and spiritual well-being. And the reason this study was so important, because so at the bottom it says adverse childhood experiences. So when we experience all the trauma that I just gave examples of, it like disrupts our neurodevelopment, right? Like how our brain processes things, which then impacts our social, emotional, and cognitive impairment, which then contributes to the adoption of unhealthy behaviors, which then contributes to disease, disability, and social problems, which then leads to early death. So this is one of the reasons why like healing work is so important, right? This is why understanding what is that baggage that I'm carrying around, and how does it still, impact me. So this is why I wanted to talk about them today, and just talk about how prevalent they are in Indian country. And even now, here we are in the middle of COVID, or wherever we are, right? We're coming on the other end with the vaccines, but Indian country was severely impacted by COVID. And in part, it's because of our existing stuff that we carry around. So when we don't get rid of that baggage, all the stuff that we're seeing up on this slide, this is what it contributes to, right? When we hold on to all of this stuff, the resentment, the anger, the rage, the shame, the guilt, all of that, right? It contributes to all of these things that we see up on this screen right now. So I'm going to stop sharing that for a second. So understanding our baggage, right? And understanding that no matter where we go, there we are with our baggage, right? It doesn't matter if we go to work, or we go to watch a basketball game, or we go to a music concert, we go to visit with friends, we go to a community gathering, wherever we go, like there we are with all of our stuff, right? And so the answer to packing our bags around is like literally opening up our bags and seeing what we're carrying around, right? And then doing something about it. So some people might actually call that healing. Like that is what healing is. And we know that healing is about becoming whole, right? Becoming whole physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, and living a life of balance, right? And so when we continue to pack around our bags, and I'm looking down because I always like use this example of a literal bag. Now you can't really see it. But I always use that visualization of like carrying around these little literal bags, right? Well, the bags that we carry around that we're talking about are like these invisible backpacks. And in those backpacks is all of this baggage that we pack around. And oftentimes, like it weighs us down, it wears us down, it makes us tired. And even though we may sleep for 12 hours straight, we might wake up exhausted, right? Because we're so tired of packing these around. So then what happens is we get so used to packing them around, it's hard to let it go, because sometimes the stuff that we pack around like literally becomes a part of who we are. And it might even, that's a part of our identity. Does that make sense? And so when we get into relationships, most often, if we're walking around with all of this baggage, most often, guess what? We're going to be attracted to people who are packing around the same baggage, right? And a long time ago, we used to joke around, not joke around, but we used to say, oh, where did you guys meet? Did you meet at dysfunction junction? And sometimes I really don't like that word dysfunction, because even our people that have the most dysfunction still have some level of functionality. But when we use that word dysfunction, like people know what we're talking about, right? So when we meet at dysfunction junction, so here you come with all of your baggage, and here comes this other person with all of their baggage, like guess what's going to happen? Guess what's going to happen? You're just going to collide. All of your baggage is going to collide. And more than likely, it's going to result in an unhealthy relationship. So when we look around at all the relationships that we have in our lives, not just intimate partner relationships, but relationships maybe with your siblings, or relationships with your friends, relationships with your coworkers, you know, all of the relationships that you get in, like, are you meeting at dysfunction junction, right? Are you feeding off of each other's negativity? Are you feeding off of each other's, you know, drama? Are you feeding off of, you know, each other's anger or rage, right? Or is what you're bringing to the relationship, you know, uplifting one another and bringing out the best in each other? So when I think about like the definition of healthy relationships, for example, you know, and I do a lot of deep thinking about this. When I think about what is a healthy relationship, you know, to me it's like doing whatever you can do to bring out the best in each other, right? That's what I think about what a healthy relationship is. And so therefore, when I started learning about, you know, healing and, you know, baggage and all the stuff that we hold on to, like I wanted to look in my bag and I wanted to see what was in there. Like I still do that today, right? I still try to work on, you know, letting go of things, and I try to practice letting go of things so I get better at it. Am I perfect at it? No. Do I still hold on to stuff that doesn't serve me in a good way? Yes. But I always keep trying to move forward, right? So that's what today is about, is like, what am I holding on to, right? What is my bag full of? And sometimes we don't even have that awareness of what we're holding on to, right? So just sitting with ourselves and doing some deep thinking, doing some reflection about, what is the stuff that I'm holding on to, right? And so we have tons of power hours. Today is our like 315th, I think, our 14th power hour. We have tons of power hours that help people like dig a little bit deeper, right, into their current lives, or into their childhoods even, and into a better understanding our parents or our grandparents, or better understanding our ancestral experiences, right, to see how that trauma still trickles down and impacts us today. So when we embrace healing, when we embrace that we are worthy of healing, when we embrace, you know, that we want to be happier, or we want to live with less drama, or we want to live with less negativity, like letting go of some of the stuff that we're packing around is going to help us to get there, right? And it doesn't mean that we're going to snap our fingers and everything is going to happen overnight. Like it takes some doing, right? Well, one of the beautiful things that actually that science is proving that our people already knew is, one, that healing is possible, right? Healing is possible. And even for people that have experienced like the most horrific things, like healing is possible, right? And that's um what research is showing us. Even this study that Kaiser Permanente did on ACEs, the adverse childhood experiences, what that really is about, it's about healing epigenetics in part, right? And what science is showing us that our answers already knew is that we can heal. You know, 90% of our population has been exposed to a traumatic event, like 90%, right? That's a lot. Um, and then we think about all the ways that we can let go. Letting go really is a part of our healing journeys, okay? And we can let go in many, many different ways. And so the last time we gave all kinds of examples of that, of letting go. So you can scroll back on our Facebook page, or you can go to our YouTube channel and like get caught up. I think I've done several programming on letting go. So today I really wanted to just to help connect the dots, right, between trauma and the baggage that we hold on to today. So the other piece I wanted to connect to, and if you're just now joining in, my name is Jillene Joseph. I am a Ani from Fort Belknap, Montana. I'm the executive director of the Native Wellness Institute, and our Native Wellness Power Hours is our contribution to the pandemic, right? It's our contribution to provide uplifting and positive and productive programming to help you along your healing and wellness journey. And we would encourage you to share this. You know, the people that come and listen in or come back and rewatch are people that are interested in their own personal well-being, their own wellness, their own healing journeys. And we would like to, you know, get other people engaged as well. So I wanted to, and oh, and today I'm only going for 30 minutes because I have a whole nother training that I forgot I scheduled myself for this and I forgot about that. So I'm doing a 30-minute, a half hour power hour today. Um, so I'm kind of talking fast and moving through this. So I wanted to share my screen. And when we talk about like healing and, you know, like reprogramming the way we think, we can actually have, we can have impacts on our brains. Our brains are these beautiful, magical, malleable things, right? That we can reprogram in a way, right? That we can do things to help us feel safe and to feel secure and all of the things that we need to anchor, right? That may have been, you know, not so solid growing up, right? Okay, so I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to show you this handout here. I can, we'll post this on our Facebook page as well. So if people, and we'll post it on our other social media sites, and we have before, and people have really enjoyed this. So this is called engaging our happiness chemicals, or you can say engaging our happiness hormones, right? So we can think about these 4 areas. Doing these things like help us to reprogram ourselves. It helps us to get back into balance. Yes, neuroplasticity, that's what I'm describing when I talk about our brain is malleable and magnificent and all of these things. Like, this is what healing does for us, right? It helps us to like reprogram ourselves, reprogram the way we think, which then reprograms the way we behave, right? Because those two are very connected. So when we look at this sheet about engaging our happiness chemicals, we can take a look at dopamine as an example. So dopamine is also called like the feel good or the reward hormone. And doing things like self-care activities or eating good food or completing a task, so even like having a checklist and then checking those things off, that increases our dopamine. Taking healthy risks, right? So tuning into a power hour is an example of taking a healthy risk. You know, um, joining a support circle on Zoom is an example of taking a healthy risk. Taking our bags where we're carrying around our baggage and opening it up and taking a look at in it is an example of taking a healthy risk. Listening to traditional music. So those are all examples of increasing our release of dopamine, right? And it makes us feel good. These things make us feel good. Or we can take a look at oxytocin. Oxytocin is also called the love hormone. So oxytocin is released, for example, when we hold a baby or when we give a compliment, hugging our loved ones, you know, which so many of us haven't been able to do because of this pandemic, right? Playing with an animal. Think about the last time you played with a little kitten or a little puppy, for an example, or riding horses, right? Positive self-talk. So these are and there's tons of other examples in all of these areas, right? But this is the love hormone, right? That makes us feel that. We can think about when we do our trainings and we do like a letting go, like we'll challenge people to let go of something that they're ready, willing, and able to let go of in that day, in that moment. We follow it up with an affirmation activity. And actually, we're going to be doing that this week at this other training I'm doing. But what we do is we give positive affirmations to each other. And just one by one, we do that. So what we're doing is we're letting go of something that's not serving us in a good way, right? The anger, the rage, the resentment, the jealousy, the shame, the blame, the guilt, whatever it is that we're holding on to. And then we fill it up with something good. Like we fill it up with that positive affirmation, right? And when we can say something nice to another person, of course we're making them feel good, but we're making ourselves feel good as well. And we're starting to change our norms around in terms of the way we talk in general, including the way we talk to ourselves, right? The way we talk to ourselves. So positive self-talk is important. And so if your norm is getting up and looking in the mirror and first thing, like focusing on everything that's wrong, like let that be your reminder, like, wait a minute, let me, what's three things that are good about me right now, right? And if you can't think of those things, get a little sticky, write it on a sticky and put it on your mirror, or put it on your computer screen, or put it on the fridge, or put it on your door, so when you walk back and forth, you can see that, right? And repeat them. So another one, serotonin. Serotonin is called the mood stabilizer. So we can think about smudging and praying, right? And think about how we feel when we do that. Okay. We can think about meditating. Meditating is huge for like rewiring and reprogramming our brains. Years ago, the Native Wellness Institute, our board and staff was gifted with this certain type of meditation called transcendental meditation. And it was this awesome retreat that we went through, really looking at how it impacts our brains, and, how it's helping us to release deep seated stress that we may hold on to, that we may not even be aware. So meditating is huge in terms of healing our brains and healing our own selves. Being in nature, right? This is a mood stabilizer. Okay. It helps serotonin be released. Being in nature, dancing, enjoying the sun. So getting that vitamin D from the sun. So all of those activities, of course, plus many, many more, um, help to release that serotonin, right? Which also contribute to our happiness. And then the last one I want to talk about is the endorphins. So our endorphins are also called like the painkiller hormone, right? So laughter, right? Laughter is a good one. Eating dark chocolate, that's one of my favorites. Essential oils are traditional medicines. So we can think about, we're going to have a show on essential oils and everything that we can learn from that. But when you start like researching essential oils, and or looking at our traditional medicines, so we can think about the smells of those things, but we can also think about, the physiological responses from our bodies, right? When we smell or burn, or just when we have our traditional medicines around us, right? Like right now, I have my traditional medicines right here. Ah, that I'm looking at. They're not burning or anything, but they're just like physically right here. And I actually have several around my space. I have several just around my office. So just seeing them, right, without touching them, or maybe not even smelling them, or without even burning them, just having them there like makes me feel good. It makes me feel good. So think about that. Um, Movement, so exercise or stretching or other types of movement. Of course, lots of people do yoga or power sweat or other kinds of movement help our endorphins release, as does running. So you hear a lot about that, like the runner's high, right? That makes them feel good. So we can think about, all the things that we do. Some of these things might be a part of our self-care routine, right? Um, and this in part is why it's so important. And we can even think about, you know, when we don't feel good, but we start doing some of these things, how it makes us feel good. That's our own research to see how it impacts our own personal lives, right? So this is why when we focus on our own worthiness, right, that we're worthy of self-care, we're worthy of carving out 30 or 60 or whatever minutes a day to focus on our own self-care, right? Because it makes us feel good. It makes us happy. And we're supposed to, as human beings, we're supposed to feel good and be happy. So stop sharing my screen. Again, I will share that on our social media pages today. And and you can grab it off the social media if you want to put that up or use it, feel welcome to do that. So today, I was talking all fast because we're just doing a 30-minute half hour power hour today because of my schedule, and I got mixed up and I should have scheduled somebody else today for the full hour. But I just wanted to kind of recap what we talked about on the part one. Today was like a part two. And I really wanted to bring in that whole relationship piece and looking at when we continue to carry around our baggage and that goes unhealed, it does impact the relationships that we have with others, right? Whether it's an intimate relationship with a partner, whether it's your sibling relationships, your friend relationships, your work relationships, all of our baggage impacts that. So that's another motivation and reason, like to dig into those bags and to let go of things that we've been holding on to, right? So thank you for tuning in. We have an awesome week of power hours today. I'm wearing one of our shirts that says Get Your Well On. On our website, nativewellness.com, we have our shirts. We actually have sweaters that say I am worthy. And it's backwards until you look into a mirror and then you see it say I am worthy. And on the back, it says we are worthy. So anyway, that helps to fund our programming. We want to give a shout out to the Noise Foundation who is funding this. We are in week 56 of our power hours. All of our power hours, they're on our Facebook page, of course, and you can go to our YouTube channel under Native Wellness Institute and watch it. So part one was not last week, but it was the week before on the Monday. I forgot what the date was. So if you want to go back, or literally you can go back and watch literally hundreds of power hours just for tips and tools and strategies to help you along your healing and wellness journey. So thank you all for tuning in. I'm sorry I got to run, but I hope you have an awesome rest of your day, and we will see you next time. Bye-bye.